I never thought twice about that hospital bill when it came in, itemized with a level of detail only an accountant or a serial killer could appreciate. But when I saw the $3,400 charge for an obstetric consultation, my heart didn't drop. It paused, like a predator calculating distance. My wife had a tubal ligation 4 years ago, her decision, her words. 2 kids are enough for anyone sane. So why the hell would she need an obstetrician? The question didn't scream. It whispered in the back of my mind while she hummed in the kitchen, setting the table for dinner like we weren't one plot twist away from becoming a true crime documentary. I didn't confront her, not because I was scared, but because I've learned that the person who speaks first loses the game. Instead, I waited. That night, I offered to do the dishes. I told her to go relax in the bath, even lit a candle like I was some neutered Hallmark husband, and while she soaked in lavender foam, I took her phone from her purse and unlocked it with her fingerprint. She used to joke that it was romantic how our hands always found each other. Funny how convenient that turned out to be. The texts weren't hidden, just saved under a man's name that no real human would ever have Connor work trip. Lazy, stupid even. I scrolled and found the thread, emojis, sweet nothings, and finally the clincher. I can't wait to start a family with you. It's finally happening. And there it was. My wife, supposedly sterile, pregnant, with another man's child. The funny part? He actually believed her. Either he was dumber than she gave him credit for, or she was feeding him more lies than a politician at a campaign dinner. That night, while she snored beside me, mouth slightly open like a character in a bad sitcom, I lay there replaying the whole facade in my head. The little signs I'd ignored, sudden yoga sessions, the new lingerie she never wore for me, the overly defensive explanations for late-night therapy group meetups. Hell, she even wore perfume to Target. But this wasn't just about cheating. This was betrayal at a molecular level. She was weaponizing biology, telling another man he'd fathered a child she couldn't possibly conceive. And that's when the first crack formed, not in my heart, not in our marriage, but in her world. Because now I wasn't confused. I was focused, controlled. I smiled more, asked about her day, kissed her forehead like a man grateful to be married to a woman who'd sentenced herself to her own ruin. And every move I made after that wasn't out of spite, it was precision, the kind surgeons dream of. I didn't just want her to suffer. I wanted her lover to deliver the final blow. And he would. Because she made the mistake of choosing a fool who thought with his pants and believed with his heart. All I had to do was show him the truth. Let him believe he discovered it himself, and watch as she was left holding the lie she built like a trophy, only to realize it was hollow. Like her promises. Like her love. Like the life she swore we were building together. We had, by all appearances, a good life, quiet, orderly, almost enviable in that dull, dependable way people long for when they're tired of chaos. Our kids were healthy, the mortgage was manageable, and we had Sunday rituals that looked good on Instagram. Pancakes, park strolls, stupid inside jokes that made the kids roll their eyes. I believed we were steady, maybe even thriving, though now I see it was only because I was too proud, or too blind, to notice the edges curling. She started talking about energy a lot. Not the physical kind, but some cosmic nonsense she picked up from a yoga class she said changed her frequency. At first, I laughed it off, figured it was one of those phases, like the gluten-free diet or that essential oil scam. But then she started using it in arguments, saying things like, I just need to protect my energy, and suddenly, small disagreements felt like intrusions. She began to disappear into herself, not with anger or resentment, but with this weird, serene detachment, like she was floating above the life we built, observing it from some higher plane. She still smiled at the kids, laughed at the dinner table, even kissed my cheek at night, but none of it touched her eyes anymore. And I noticed she started wearing makeup to go to the grocery store. New shades, redder lips. At first, I told myself she just wanted to feel good, look nice. Hell, I even complimented her. But then there were the changes in schedule. Pilates on Wednesdays became evening meditations on Thursdays, then sound healing on Fridays, then some workshop on Saturdays. She used to hate being away from the kids for too long, but now she'd come home late smelling like expensive lotion and incense, smiling too wide, hugging them just a second too long, like she was performing the role of a mother for an audience I couldn't see. She started using phrases like my journey and my truth, and one night after the kids went to bed, she told me she felt like she was evolving beyond codependence. I didn't even know what the hell that meant. Was she calling our marriage codependence? She reassured me with a pat on the leg, said I was doing great, like I was some dog halfway through obedience school. I told myself it was just a phase. She was bored, maybe. Tired. I kept doing my part. Making coffee in the morning, driving the kids to school, folding laundry in silence. But the cracks were there. Her phone was always upside down. Her laugh changed, lighter, higher pitched, like someone had adjusted her frequency all right. And she locked her screen in front of me, something she never used to do. One time I caught a glimpse of a message pop up before it disappeared. The name read Connor Work Trip. I asked casually, "Who's Connor?" And she replied too quickly, "Oh, just someone from the leadership seminar." That night I checked her LinkedIn. No leadership seminar. Nothing scheduled. Nothing mentioned. But I didn't press. I wasn't ready to go looking for ghosts in the attic. I wanted to believe. I needed to believe that this woman, who once sobbed in my arms after our first miscarriage, who used to draw hearts next to my name in birthday cards, who told me I was the only man she'd ever loved, wasn't doing what my gut was starting to scream she was doing. But it got harder to ignore. There was the time she came home with a new coat, leather, expensive, designer. No tags. No receipt. She said it was a gift from her sister. Her sister lives in Berlin. They haven't spoken in months. I saw the passenger seat in her car reclined once, completely flat. She said she'd taken a nap while waiting for her appointment. It was a cloudy day, 60 degrees. No one naps in a parked car unless they're hiding something. Still, I didn't say anything. I kissed her goodnight, pretended not to notice how she angled her body away from mine in bed, how her legs stopped wrapping around mine in sleep like they used to. Her intimacy became sterile, like she was checking a box. Mechanical moans, quick finishes. I felt like a maintenance man keeping the machine running while someone else got the thrill rides. Then came the privacy change. One day, I tried to pull up her Instagram, and I was blocked. Not just logged out, blocked. She said it was an accident. Said she was curating her online presence to match her internal peace. I nodded. I smiled. I did the dishes. But something in me started to shift, like a door unlocking in the back of a long-forgotten room. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was preparing. Watching. Calculating. Because I knew then, this wasn't just a woman growing apart. This was someone already gone. I just hadn't been given the courtesy of an obituary. It was a Tuesday, the kind that slips through the cracks of memory, gray and unremarkable, until it wasn't. She was in the shower, and I was folding laundry, a task I'd taken over ever since she said, "Our energies clash when we clean together." Her phone was on the nightstand, face down like always, but I wasn't even looking for it when it happened. It lit up. Just once. One of those brief, thoughtless flashes the universe sends when it's finally done letting you pretend. I didn't pick it up. I didn't need to. The preview was enough. I had a dream you were pregnant with my baby. Woke up hard. Miss you. No name. Just a number, local area code. The words didn't punch me. They sliced thin, clean, and quiet, like the edge of something surgical. She was still in the shower, singing softly, off-key, humming some pop song about love like we weren't rotting from the inside out. I stared at that screen until it faded back to black, and for a moment I could almost hear something cracking behind my eyes. Not rage. Not sadness. Just the sound of an old belief breaking, like a rotted beam snapping in a house you thought would last forever. I didn't move. I didn't make a sound. I just kept folding the clothes, calmly, carefully, shirt, pants, underwear, a bra that wasn't there the week before. New. Lacy. Black. Not her style. Not for me. I opened her drawer and noticed it had its own place now, folded like it belonged. A new set of habits forming right under my roof, like termites building an empire in the walls. I walked to the kitchen, brewed coffee, sat at the counter while the rain tapped against the window like a metronome keeping time with my heartbeat. She came out wrapped in a towel, smiled that plastic smile she'd perfected over the last few months. Kissed me on the cheek. I kissed her back. Going to meet Claire for lunch, she said, like it was any other day. Claire, who moved to Arizona 6 months ago. I nodded. Tell her I said hi. She didn't notice. She didn't care to notice. She threw on her coat, the new leather one, the one she swore was a gift, and I watched her put on lipstick in the mirror, the same shade she used to wear for me when we still had that meant something. She paused at the door like she expected something, guilt, a question, a goodbye, but I gave her nothing. Just a smile. Just the quiet. When the door shut behind her, I didn't chase her. I didn't rage through the house. I walked slowly to the bathroom, wiped the steam from the mirror, and looked at myself for a long, long time. I looked like a man mourning someone who hadn't died yet. A widower with a pulse. I sat down on the toilet lid and stared at the floor tiles, counted them. 58. I don't know why I counted them. Maybe because numbers don't lie. People do. Love does. But tiles stay exactly where you put them. I went in her closet next. Nothing looked out of place. But that was the problem, it was too perfect. All her new clothes, arranged by color, like she was curating a wardrobe for someone else's life. Someone she wanted to be for him. That's when I opened the drawer I wasn't supposed to open, the one she said held old journals and cringe high school stuff. Tucked in the back was a crumpled napkin from some cafe I'd never heard of. On it, "Your laugh is dangerous. I think I'm addicted." A heart. A name. Connor. And just like that, the number from the text had a face, a voice, a place in this story. It wasn't random. It was curated. Selected. She didn't stumble into this. She built it. Brick by brick, lie by lie, in the spaces where my trust used to live. I put the napkin back. I closed the drawer. And I sat down on the bed we no longer shared, the one she now used to sleep near me, not with me. I looked around at the life we made, photos on the wall, kids' drawings on the fridge, vacation magnets from places that now felt like someone else's memories. None of it made me cry. None of it hurt. Because I'd crossed the line, silently, invisibly. I was no longer a husband. I was something colder. Smarter. I didn't want to confront her. I didn't want to argue. I wanted her exposed. I wanted her to be the architect of her own collapse. Because if she could lie this easily, this completely, then I owed it to myself to lie just as well. I would smile. I would nod. And I would let the storm gather behind my eyes until it was ready to be released, not at her. Through her. I didn't need to scream to uncover the truth. I just needed her to keep believing I was blind. That was the key. She had to think I still bought the lies, still believed in the lunches with imaginary friends, the weekend seminars with no paperwork, the late work nights from a job that never once demanded that before. So I started watching, really watching, not like a jealous husband, but like an analyst. The kind who pieces together a man's entire life from a pattern of receipts and shadows. I started small. Our joint bank account hadn't changed much, she was too smart for that. But I noticed she started using cash again, something she hadn't done in years. $80 here, $120 there, all withdrawn midweek around 3 p.m., too early for groceries, too late for lunch. So I checked her calendar and cross-referenced the dates with her appointments. A few didn't add up. She'd marked herself working late, but I drove past her office building and counted lights. Hers was never on. I didn't follow her. That would be too obvious. I followed her friend Tara, the one she always claimed to be with. I tailed her car one evening, 2 blocks behind, never close enough to get noticed. Tara drove straight home, went inside, never left. Meanwhile, my wife texted me that she and Tara were having wine and deep girl talk at her place. I screenshot the messages, timestamped the drive. Just data for now. Just pieces. I started collecting them like puzzle fragments. Next came the trap questions. I'd ask how Claire's baby shower was. Claire, who had moved out of state last year. "Oh, it was beautiful," she said, without blinking. "So much pink. She's having a girl. Claire is gay and child-free by choice." I didn't correct her. Just nodded and asked if she'd gotten her anything. She said yes, a spa gift card. I checked the drawer where we keep cards. The same one I last organized. The card was still there, and signed, unbought. Another lie. Another crack. I built a new email account and created a fake profile. Nothing incriminating. Just a mild, harmless-looking man named Dan, new to town, asking about yoga retreats. I messaged the instructor she'd been raving about, the one she said was changing her life. The instructor responded, polite and confused. No one named my wife had signed up for any classes this year. Another lie. Another screenshot. I planted a Bluetooth tracker in her car, nothing illegal, just a misplaced tile key finder I slid under the seat when she asked me to vacuum it. I let it ping her location every time she went to yoga, and more often than not, she parked across town, next to a red apartment building I didn't recognize. I checked Google Street View, and there it was, Unit 2B. I looked up property records. Rented by one Connor Evers. No photos. No social media. Just the name. So I set the next trap. I sent a bouquet of white lilies to her office, to the most radiant soul I've ever met, Connor. The kind of message that demands a reaction. I waited. 2 days. She never mentioned it. Never said thank you. I called her office receptionist and asked if the flowers were delivered. Yes, she got them, the woman said. smiled, and took them straight to her car. I thanked her, hung up, and smiled for the first time in weeks. That night, I asked her casually if anything interesting had happened at work. No, she said. Same old grind. Another lie. By now the lies were stacking like bricks in a wall she didn't know she was building between us. But I didn't just want to catch her. I wanted him to see what she really was. I bought a burner phone and started texting her from another fake number, pretending to be a client, flirtatious, slightly unprofessional. She took the bait in 3 messages. Sent a winking emoji. Said, "Don't tell my husband." I saved it all. My final piece came when I asked our daughter to borrow her tablet for homework. The family cloud was still synced. Photos she didn't think to hide. Selfies in that red apartment. One with a man's jacket slung over her shoulders. His face wasn't visible, but his hand was. A watch. The same watch from the napkin photo. Same sleeve. Same man. I looked at that photo for a long time. Not because I was surprised, but because I was done collecting. I had enough. Enough to break her. Enough to ruin him. Enough to set the stage for something so much more satisfying than a confrontation. Because now, I wasn't just a husband with suspicion. I was the architect of a silent execution. And she? She was still out there smiling, completely unaware that every move she made from here on out was no longer hers. She was playing a game that had already ended. She just didn't know she'd already lost. She walked into the gallery exactly 4 minutes late, heels clicking like punctuation against the polished concrete, smiling as if this night were just another curated event in the highlight reel of her new, secret life. She spotted me near the back, drink in hand, tailored, silent, and smiled that wide, careful smile, the one she used when she wanted the room to like her before they knew her name. I waved her over with 2 fingers, the way I always did, a signal she used to find charming, but tonight it made her hesitate, just for a second. "Sorry I'm late," she whispered as she leaned in to kiss my cheek, but I tilted just enough for her lips to brush the air. She laughed, nervous. "You okay?" she asked. "Of course," I said, gesturing to the installation behind us. Abstract photos, black and white, blurred faces and intimate angles. She looked around, trying to match my mood, and that's when the first image faded into the next on the projector screen. A candid shot, her, in profile, standing outside Connor's apartment, sunlight catching the curve of her neck as he kissed it. Her smile froze, then flickered. "What the hell is this?" she said, barely above a whisper. "Beautiful composition, don't you think?" I said, sipping my drink without looking at her. "That lighting? Unplanned, yet perfect." She looked at me, then at the crowd, a small but well-dressed audience, murmuring, sipping, watching the next photo appear. Her legs in his lap, her head on his shoulder, his hand resting low, too familiar. This is not okay. Where did you get these?" she snapped. "They're part of the exhibit," I said. "Private moments, public consequences. The artist's theme." Her eyes darted to the exit, then back to me. "This isn't what it looks like," she said, almost a reflex, the first layer of defense. "We were just talking." That kiss, it wasn't even planned. The next image showed her in lingerie, not ours, in a mirror selfie with his reflection behind her. Her voice trembled now. I was confused. "You and we weren't connecting." "You seem very connected in that photo," I said. "Emotionally aligned, even." Her voice dropped. "You've been spying on me?" "I've been documenting my disintegration," I replied. "Call it self-preservation." She stepped closer, tone sharpening. "You weren't there for me. You stopped trying. What did you expect me to do?" "Not this," I said. "Not betrayal behind my back while kissing my children goodnight." Her arms folded across her chest, a shield. "Fine," she muttered. "So what?" I wanted more. I needed to feel alive again. He gave me that. And there it was, the mocking confidence, the arrogance of someone who believed they still had leverage. "You always played it safe. You never took me." I tilted my head, eyes narrowing just slightly. "You mistake restraint for weakness. That was your first error." The next image hit harder than the rest. Her in bed, asleep, his arm draped over her, their phones on the nightstand next to a sonogram printout. She hadn't seen that photo before. Her breath caught. You weren't supposed to know about that." "No," I said quietly. "Connor wasn't supposed to know you couldn't get pregnant. Which makes this a particularly cruel game." Her mouth opened, then closed. Then opened again, but no words came. Just silence. The weight of the trap finally revealed. "I loved you," she tried. "I was lost. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "You mapped every mile of this affair like a vacation," I said. You knew the risks. You just assumed I wouldn't be the one holding the compass. Now the panic began to flicker behind her eyes, the reality setting in that this wasn't an argument, it was an autopsy. Please, she said, voice softening, cracking at the edges. Let's talk about this. Alone. We can fix this. Fix what? I asked. The funeral you held for our marriage behind my back? The child you invented for a man who believed he mattered to you? Or the version of me you lied to every night while pretending to fall asleep? Her eyes welled up now, mascara starting to bleed at the corners. I was scared, she whispered. I didn't know how to stop. You weren't scared, I said, lowering my voice so only she could hear. You were greedy. And careless. And now you're exposed. The final image flicked onto the screen. Her, sitting on Connor's lap, kissing him deeply, wedding ring hanging from a chain around his neck. The crowd was silent. Some watched. Some turned away. The gallery manager had vanished. I looked at her, hollow now, unraveling in real time. Everyone always thinks the worst thing that can happen is getting caught, I said calmly. But the truth is, the worst thing is being understood and left exactly as you are. She reached out, fingers trembling, but I didn't move. The music kept playing. The photos kept cycling. And I stood still, drink untouched, voice quiet, watching her try to pick up pieces that had already been reduced to dust. I wasn't leaving. Not yet. Not until the weight of what she destroyed had time to sink in completely. You think this makes you powerful? She hissed as we stood alone in the aftermath of the gallery. Just her, me, and the echo of everything she never thought I'd discover. Her face twisted, voice cracking from something between desperation and rage. All of this, what you did tonight, it's cruel, it's manipulative. You've always needed to control everything. I said nothing. Just looked at her like a statue watching a house burn. You smothered me, she spat next, stepping closer, pointing a shaking finger at my chest like she could pierce skin with guilt. You never saw me, not really. I was dying inside while you sat there reading spreadsheets and drinking the same damn coffee every morning like routine could replace passion. I tilted my head slightly. Then you should have left. Not cheated. That stopped her for a second. Just a flicker. Then came the pivot. You act like you're so calm, so put together, but you're a coward. You always played it safe. Never took a risk. You think a mortgage and 2 kids make you a man. Her words sharpened, venom dripping now. Connor made me feel alive. Like I mattered. You made me feel like furniture, comfortable, useful, forgettable. I didn't blink. Then it's poetic you ended up with someone who treated you like a possession. The difference is, I've never lied about what I value. Her mouth trembled at that, lips parting to throw something else, something nastier. You were boring, she shouted, louder now. Predictable. I went looking for something that actually made me feel something. You could have said that, I replied, still calm. Instead, you offered yourself to someone else like an escape room with no exit. She laughed bitterly, shrill and desperate, masking the panic swelling behind her eyes. God, you're so clinical. Always talking like a therapist instead of a man. No wonder I strayed. I needed heat, not analysis. Then maybe next time, cheat with someone who doesn't need directions to find your soul, I said, low and level. Connor loved me, she fired back, trying again to wound, but it landed hollow. He said things to me you never even. He left you, I interrupted. The moment he realized the pregnancy was fake and your promises meant nothing. He left. Not because of me. Because of you. She flinched, hands trembling now, eyes darting as if searching for a weapon she hadn't yet thrown. I made one mistake. You made months of mistakes, I corrected. Every day. Every lie. That's not a slip. That's a strategy. She stepped back like she'd been struck, but there was no hand raised, no voice raised, just words, and the cold, brutal truth hanging in the air like ice. You never really loved me, she said, softer now, switching tactics again, reaching for the guilt she used to be able to wring out of me with just a glance. If you did, you wouldn't be doing this. You wouldn't humiliate me like this. You humiliated yourself, I said. I just held up a mirror. She crossed her arms, voice quivering. You're not perfect, you know. You act like you're some victim, but you were absent. You weren't there when I needed you. I cried myself to sleep next to you for months. And then you faked a pregnancy for another man, I said. Let's not pretend we're dealing in equal sins. Her face twisted, and she screamed, not words, just sound, a guttural, furious noise like a caged animal realizing the door is locked from the outside. Say something, she finally yelled, voice breaking. Hate me, yell at me, just feel something, goddamn it. I looked at her then, really looked. I did feel something, I said. A long time ago. Before you killed it. She stood there, shaking, jaw clenching, eyes glossy with rage and disbelief. You're not even angry, she whispered. Why aren't you angry? Because anger is for people who still care, I said. And I stopped the moment you let another man inside a home I built with my bare hands. She was silent after that. Not because she didn't have more to say, but because none of it mattered. She'd used every card, victim, martyr, seductress, fury, and none of it cracked me. And that terrified her more than if I had flipped the table or shattered a glass or screamed until the walls shook. I had nothing left to give her, not pain, not love, not hatred. Just the one thing she feared most. Indifference. The moment I walked out of that gallery, I didn't look back, not because I was finished, but because I was just beginning. The real damage isn't done by shouting or slamming doors. It's done in silence, through signatures and strategy, through systems that don't flinch when she cries. I went home that night and opened my laptop with the calm focus of a man sharpening a scalpel. First, I pulled every piece of evidence I'd gathered, screenshots, text messages, photos, GPS logs, financial statements, audio recordings of her contradictions, all backed up 3 ways and stored in encrypted folders. I created a timeline of betrayal, from the first unusual withdrawal to the last lie she told about a non-existent friend. I labeled every folder, cross-referenced every message, built a dossier that would make a prosecutor weep with gratitude. Then, I changed the passwords on every joint account, banking, insurance, utilities, streaming services, cloud storage. Anything she touched, I reclaimed. Not out of pettiness, out of necessity. I transferred the bulk of our joint funds into an individual account I had opened 6 months earlier under a different bank, quietly, without a trace. The only money left in our shared account was $43.87, the cost of a meal at the same place she once met him for a business lunch. I let her keep that. Next, the car. The one under my name that she'd been driving like a symbol of independence. I called the dealership, reported it for voluntary repossession, and had the GPS disabled remotely. The next morning, while she stood in a grocery store parking lot confused and dialing roadside assistance, I stood in the DMV transferring title of the second car, the reliable one, into my name alone. The house? Already protected. I'd refinanced months earlier when interest rates dropped and, coincidentally, removed her name from the deed using a power of attorney she signed without reading. She was never legally listed again, and she never noticed. She thought the pink paperwork in her inbox was just more refinancing spam. I revoked the power of attorney 2 days after she signed it. She signed her own exile. I contacted my attorney next, quiet, efficient, and expensive. The divorce papers were prepared with everything documented: infidelity, deceit, financial misconduct. I requested full custody, citing emotional instability and evidence of reckless behavior. I wasn't vindictive. I just wasn't going to leave my kids in the hands of a woman who weaponized motherhood to manipulate another man. And while the papers were being drafted, I mailed 5 packages, identical manila envelopes containing photo evidence, timelines, and printed messages to her parents, her siblings, and 3 of her closest friends. No letter, no explanation, just the truth, laid bare, impossible to deny. I didn't write a single word. Let the silence speak. Let them ask her why. The next wave came quietly, through HR. I called her workplace anonymously, requested a meeting with her supervisor under the pretense of a personal legal matter. I provided documentation proving she'd used company time, resources, and work trips for her affair. Photos. Screenshots of text messages with timestamps that matched her Outlook calendar. She wasn't fired, not right away, but she was called in, questioned, warned. She lost 2 major accounts and a pending promotion. The message was sent. Her perfect little life was not untouchable. I canceled the joint credit card she used for her weekend retreats, replaced every account tied to her spending. The next time she tried to use it at a boutique downtown, it declined 3 times. The look on her face, I'm told, was priceless. The utilities, 2 water, gas, electric, all rerouted to my name alone. I scheduled service cancellations for the date she was due to move out, which, of course, she didn't know had already been decided by the lawyer. I kept the internet on only because the kids needed it. Everything else? Gone. I even made arrangements with her gym, citing financial hardship, to suspend her membership, effective immediately. She'd show up next week, swipe her card, and be told she no longer had access to the place where she said she was healing. Finally, I did something she wouldn't see coming. I found Connor. Sent him a flash drive through a third party. No note, just cold, surgical evidence. Every time she lied to him, every overlap in their timelines, every manipulation she used to keep him close. Including the doctor's letter proving she couldn't have been pregnant. She told him it ended in a miscarriage. I told him it never began. After that, he blocked her on everything. Deleted his social media. Moved out of the apartment. She came home crying the next night, pretending to be confused. I didn't ask why. I just offered her a blanket and walked away. She still thought she had time to explain, to manipulate, to crawl back. But time, like trust, had already been taken from her. Quietly. Completely. And she didn't even hear it go. The charity banquet was her idea, one last attempt at polishing the image she'd built from borrowed pride and hidden rot. She wore a midnight blue dress with the kind of slit that whispered desperation, her smile wide, flawless, fake. She looped her arm through mine like everything was normal, like she wasn't standing in a room full of people who already knew what she really was. I'd made sure of it. Every table had someone I'd quietly given the truth to, a close friend she hadn't seen in months, a coworker she thought was on her side, her cousin from out of town who used to worship her. The whispers didn't start right away. They began like static, small, near silent, and swelled with every sidelong glance, every drink raised in false toasts, every hushed laugh that didn't quite include her. She noticed it when her best friend Laura turned away mid-conversation, clutching her wine glass like a weapon of restraint. She noticed again when her mother approached, cold and pale, handed her a sealed envelope, and walked away without a word. The envelope held photos, printed screenshots of the messages she thought she deleted, the hotel receipts she said never existed, the sonogram lie that shattered what was left of anyone's belief in her. Her fingers trembled as she tucked the envelope into her clutch, pretending it was nothing, pretending she hadn't just been excommunicated in real time. Then came the main event. The host took the stage to thank sponsors, supporters, and families who exemplify loyalty and community values, and she laughed too loudly, clapped too hard, drawing eyes she could no longer charm. I stayed silent beside her, sipping water, watching her crumble in slow motion. Her confidence faltered first, a misstep on the way to the restroom, a stumble she tried to cover with a nervous giggle. Then the cracks in her face, the way her lips twitched at the edges, the shallow breath she took between smiles, like someone trying to stay afloat in water filling faster than they could bail it out. A waiter passed with champagne. She reached for one. I gently took it instead, handed it back. "Stay clear," I said quietly. "You'll want your hands free for what's coming." She tried to laugh it off, a light scoff meant to project control, but her eyes were already darting around, scanning faces, reading expressions she couldn't interpret anymore. She whispered, "What did you do?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Her phone buzzed on the table. Then again, and again. 3 messages. One from her brother. One from her boss. One from an unknown number, now tagged as Connor. I watched her pick it up with shaking fingers, unlock it, scroll, and freeze. Her face changed in increments. Denial, confusion, horror. Then, silence. She read the message from Connor twice. "Don't ever contact me again. I know what you are." She blinked hard, held her breath. Her boss's message was even shorter. "Meeting first thing Monday. We need to talk about your conduct." She dropped the phone. It hit the table with a thud loud enough to draw attention, but she didn't move. Just stared forward like the screen still burned in her vision. I stood slowly, fixed my cufflinks, and leaned in close enough for only her to hear. This is what it looks like when a mask dissolves. She turned to me, finally, eyes wet, voice low. "You planned this. You did all this." "No," I said. "You did all this. I just scheduled the viewing." Her lip quivered. She tried to speak again, but her throat caught. Her eyes scanned the room for an escape, but no one offered her one. Laura wouldn't meet her gaze. Her mother stood with her arms crossed, glaring. Her boss, seated across the room, simply shook his head slowly when she looked at him, then turned away. And then, as if fate wanted to put a nail in her delusion, the slideshow began. Photos of families, volunteers, community heroes. The second slide? Her, Connor, laughing in a grainy image taken outside his apartment, the watermark of the surveillance footage still visible in the corner. She gasped. The room didn't react, just stared. No laughter, no gasps, just quiet acknowledgement. She looked at me like she might scream, might collapse, might beg. But I stood still, said nothing. My silence louder than any words. She reached for my hand. I didn't move. "Please," she whispered, her voice cracking like the rest of her. You don't have to destroy me. I didn't, I replied. You did. I just let the world watch. And that's when she broke. In front of everyone. Her shoulders fell. Her breath hitched. She turned away, face flushed, trembling. No applause. No exit music. Just the quiet sound of a woman realizing that everything she built, her image, her story, her lies, was dust in the open air. And I stood there, watching, steady, unforgiving, and utterly unmoved. The moment exploded like a lit match tossed into gasoline. The wedding anniversary party turned battlefield, surrounded by silk-draped tables, catered lies, and too many people who already knew far too much. Her parents were there, tight-lipped and pale, standing like witnesses at an execution they didn't know they'd be attending. My sister had flown in, silent and sharp-eyed, and her best friend Laura stood frozen near the champagne fountain, arms crossed, phone clutched like a shield. I didn't want a scene, but she forced it with her first line, loud and slicing through the music. You've twisted everything. She shrieked from across the room, shoving through a crowd of guests as murmurs rose like steam. You made me look like a monster. I turned slowly, glass in hand, calm, measured. I didn't make you do anything, I said, voice clear and deliberate. You wrote your story. I just stopped covering for it. You set me up, she shouted, eyes wide, hair disheveled now, the mask finally slipping. You planted photos. You manipulated everyone. This wasn't justice. It was revenge. No, I snapped, stepping toward her now, eyes locked. Revenge would have been me ruining you without evidence. What I did was clarity. What I did was truth. And you can't stand being seen for what you really are. The room hushed. Glasses were lowered. People leaned in. Her mother turned her back, unable to watch. Her father didn't even blink. She looked around, hoping someone would jump in, defend her. No one moved. You don't know what it was like being married to you, she screamed, voice rising, hands shaking now. Always the calm one. Always the perfect one. Like I was some burden you were tolerating. You drove me to it. You cheated because you're selfish, I said, voice like steel. You lied because you're cowardly. And now you're exposed because you're sloppy. I gave you everything. She shrieked, tears forming but not falling. I gave you my best years. And you spent the rest of them in someone else's bed. I roared back, and the crowd actually flinched. While I raised your children, carried your weight, and believed your lies because I was stupid enough to think loyalty mattered to you. You were never enough, she fired, a final, desperate dagger. Connor made me feel alive, like a woman, not just a mother and a maid. And that's when I saw him, Connor, a half-hidden near the door, trying to edge his way out, but not fast enough. Oh, look, I said loudly, pointing. There he is. The man who thought he was the center of your world until he realized he was just the next in line. Connor froze. The crowd turned. She spun around, saw him, and her entire expression shattered. Connor, wait, please, she begged, running toward him, grabbing his sleeve. I didn't tell him everything. It's been blown out of. He shook her off with a disgusted grunt. Don't talk to me. You lied about being pregnant. You said you were leaving him. He stopped, saw all the eyes, and turned to leave. She screamed after him, a sound so raw it cut through every conversation in the room. I didn't move. She turned back to me, unhinged, tears now streaming, makeup cracking like a dried mask. Are you happy now? You destroyed me. No, I said coldly. You destroyed yourself. I just stopped saving you. Please, she whispered, collapsing to her knees now, grasping at her father's arm. Dad, say something. Tell them I'm not a monster. Tell them I didn't mean to. Her father stepped back. I can't help you lie anymore, he said quietly. Not after what I read. You don't know the whole story, she sobbed. You don't understand. He planned this. Yes, I said, stepping forward, towering above her broken form. I did. Because you planned to ruin our life behind my back. I just made sure you couldn't do it in the dark. She looked up at me, eyes red, hands trembling. Do you feel powerful now? She spat. You think this makes you a man? I leaned down, just enough for only her to hear. No, I said. Walking away while you beg for a version of me that no longer exists, that's what makes me a man. I turned. The crowd parted. Her screams echoed as I passed through, steady, silent. The last image they would remember wasn't her collapse. It was me, unbroken, unmoved, and done. She lost her job 3 weeks after the banquet, not with a dramatic firing, but with a quiet reassignment to a department that no longer existed, followed by an email marked, "Position terminated effective immediately." Her LinkedIn dried up, Her inbox flooded with cold silence, and the contacts who used to praise her ambition no longer returned calls. Her so-called friends disappeared one by one, blocking her on social media, removing tags from old photos, uninviting her from gatherings she used to organize. Even Laura, the one who once cried at her wedding, cut all ties after seeing the evidence I had sent without commentary. Her parents refused to take her in, ashamed and tired, citing the embarrassment she brought upon the family. Her father even called to apologize to me for raising a stranger. The apartment she moved into was a box with water-stained ceilings and no washer-dryer, the kind of place where no one asks what you used to be. She took a job at a dying strip mall, folding overpriced yoga pants for customers who never recognized her name, who never knew the reputation she once clung to like a second skin. Her affair partner vanished the day after the confrontation, deleted his social media, moved apartments, blocked her on every platform. She tried contacting his sister to plead her case, but even she hung up on her after one sentence. I started hearing rumors about her showing up at events she wasn't invited to, crying in the parking lot of her old gym, walking the aisles of grocery stores she used to dominate with the quiet confidence of someone who thought she'd never be dethroned. Then came the texts. Short at first, "Can we talk? I miss the kids. I miss you." I never answered. Then longer ones, flooded with apologies and explanations, stories she'd rewritten in her mind where we were both at fault, where this was just a bad chapter and not the final page. She sent a picture once, a selfie, no makeup, eyes puffy, some desperate attempt to prove she was still human beneath the ruins. I left it on read. Then, one night, she came to the house. She must have still had a key. I'd been meaning to change the locks but hadn't bothered. She let herself in while the kids were asleep, standing in the living room like a ghost finally noticing she was dead. Her voice was barely a whisper, shaking. "I don't have anyone left." I didn't move, just stared. She looked around the room she used to decorate with seasonal pillows and hollow laughter. "I've lost everything," she said. "Everyone. My parents won't even speak to me. I wake up and the silence is like a punishment I can't outrun." I said nothing. She stepped closer, hands trembling, like a child asking forgiveness from a parent who stopped believing in bedtime stories. "Please," she said. "I know I don't deserve another chance. I need something. Anything. Even if it's just a memory." I looked at her then, not with anger, not even with disappointment. Just clarity. The kind of detached calm that comes when the pain is bled out and all that's left is the scar. "You made your choice," I said quietly. "And now you're living in it." She reached for my hand. I didn't offer it. "I still love you," she whispered. "You were always the only real thing in my life." I tilted my head, studied her face, once beautiful, now hollow, every lie etched into her skin. "Strange," I said. "I don't even remember your name anymore." She broke then, truly broke, sinking to her knees in the home she used to rule, sobbing into the floorboards, hoping for a forgiveness that would never come. I let her cry, let her feel what it's like to be unheard. Then I turned, walked to the door, and held it open. She stood, finally, slowly, and left without another word. I closed it behind her and changed the lock the next morning. For good. Thank you for listening to my story. I'm curious, where are you from? And did you enjoy it?